Liverpool to adopt new contract strategy. Liverpool have decided to modify their wage structure to stop them being lumbered with unwanted big earners, and this is one that the Gman kind of brought to all of our attention. But from Thursday, January 17th, 2013, the likes of Joe Cole and Alberto Aquilani have pocketed huge weekly wages at the club in recent years despite barely figuring in the first team squad. Now managing director Ian Ayre says the club will offer lower basic wages and instead reward players with performance-related deals. The attitude I'm trying to put forward when we're negotiating with agents is that we want to do a contract which is fair for both sides, he told Liverpool Echo. Fair often means the right amount of reward for a player who delivers. Everyone we bring through the door we expect to perform and do the best they can. As long as any player does that, they should be rewarded for it. I'm not one of those who subscribes to the idea that players are necessarily overpaid. I think they make huge contributions to the biggest league in the world. From the football club's perspective, our view has to be that people are rewarded for contributing towards what we achieve. As long as contracts are structured in that way, then everyone wins. If a player performs, then he will be rewarded. That's the philosophy of the contracts we're offering and signing. Ayre also said that Liverpool's principal owner, John W. Henry, remains fully committed to furthering the club's progress despite his continued absence from Anfield. Now, you know what, yeah? This is quite an interesting one because a lot of people were saying that Theo Walcott was not worth £100,000. A lot of people were saying he's not worth it. And now that he's signed, a lot of people are like, you know what? I'm happy he signed because he's been performing lately. So he's been rewarded for performing, which I'm kind of glad that Ian Ayre is coming out with this this new contract strategy because at the end of the day, you don't want overpriced players. You don't want overpriced players on your team. I mean, that's why we've gotten rid of Joe Cole. Joe Cole didn't perform for us, at least not on a consistent basis, and he was getting like 120 grand a week. Alberto Aquilani, whenever he got chances, he got the ball to run with, but didn't run with it. And on a general basis, I mean, we were talking last week about salary caps and that kind of thing, and it seems like Liverpool are kind of going to impose it on themselves first and foremost before the Premier League does it, because the Premier League salary caps and this kind of thing, we were talking about this last week. It's a case of salary caps. That stuff should have been brought in years ago. So at least Liverpool are trying to take it into their own hands. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm in agreement with it because the whole thing with Wesley Sneijder, for instance. I mean, he got offered a big offer from, I think it was Galatasaray in Turkey, and it's like, okay, fine. I did when he was being linked with Liverpool. It's like, I don't see any direct quotes from people at Liverpool. It's just the papers flinging stuff out. But at the end of the day, I personally see it as, if you want to come and play for Liverpool, you want to come and play for the Reds, you want to come play for us, you better want to play for us. You better want to stand in front of the Kop, to come out and hear them roaring and cheering your name. Just like when Danny Sturridge celebrated and he started doing the skank, you hear that sort of ovation. When we get players, we love those players. And at the end of the day, if you want to be a part of that, fine, you could be a part of it. But at the end of the day, if you're coming to us for a big payday, you could tell your story walking and hit the bricks. At the end of the day, because you know what, this new wage structure is similar to what Arsenal have been doing for years. They haven't been willing to break that £100,000 wage structure. All right, Walcott's on 100 grand, but on a general basis, they won't break that. That is smart, because at the end of the day, you don't want a situation like at QPR, aka the new WCW of the Premier League, whereby you got players getting paid astronomical wages and not performing. That's what you don't want. So I'm in agreement with this new contract strategy. Hopefully other clubs fall in line and decide to do it as well. But G-Man, what do you reckon of this? Because you were the one who brought it to my attention. And also, we're going to throw it out the Skypers after as well.
Yeah, and as you know, I'm an advocate of the way Arsenal do business and how Arsenal, sort out their contracts. Mm-hmm. And like you said earlier on, it is a bit baffling with the Theo Walcott situation that many of us are saying he's not worth 100,000, but then we're saying we need to sign him, and that's the problem you have with such a tight wage structure, because that's a problem that we've got ourselves into, and it's not our fault. It's because other teams in the Premiership are able to stump up their cash on a next sort of level, 100 grand more than what we can pay. So if we lose Theo Walcott now, just say you got Suarez. If Suarez wanted 120, and you can't stump up that, you don't want to stump up that 120, you risk these DNA, you risk Manchester City or Manchester United or Real Madrid, Barcelona coming and players.
Yeah, you do risk people, other teams poaching your players. No, you're right.
And it's like you said, if the FA can come in and restrict the league to a wage structure, have caps, it's going to be golden. But if they ain't, and certain teams are doing it themselves, in a way, it's a negative. It's going to be a real negative factor on those clubs, and you've seen it with Arsenal in the last 8 years. Like fans are calling for these bigger players, but then they're also calling for financial stability. But you can't mix the two.
Yeah,
there's no such thing as having financial stability and buying the best players in the world. It just ain't going to happen.
No, that's a good point. I mean, I do agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, you look at Manchester City buying these big players on these big wages, but look how much they've been losing financially over the past couple years straight. It's like 180, 190 million a year, and then they're not making that much back. So it's one of them ones where it's a bit nuts. And the fact, and one of the facts about this for me is a case of that at the end of the day, I am definitely an advocate of performance related bonuses. I'm definitely an advocate of that. I am personally a advocate of performance-related bonuses, just purely on the basis that if you play well, ye shall be rewarded. I think that's the way it should be. If you play well, you should be rewarded. Not you should be rewarded just for being out on the pitch. At the end of the day, if you play well, you get a bonus. Not a boner, a bonus, I said. But for me, the fact of the matter is performance related bonuses I'm happy with. Especially, I've said this with injury prone players, such as your Owen Hargreaves, your Michael Owen, and that kind of thing. It's a case of it's just, I think it's got to be geared towards that, because there are so many players on astronomical wages not performing that well. So, I'm an advocate of it. But does anyone else want to jump in on this point? Anyone else want to jump in on this point? All right, Max Goddard, jump in, man. Have at it.
Well, obviously, Cisse, he's not performing up to what Tony Fernandez is paying him. Yeah. And there's an example because they've loaned him out.
No, I hear that, man. We've had something via Facebook as well, where Ted Wynn has said got to be financial fair play and teams preparation for that. Teams will take risks, especially QPR, etc., because Premiership means pounds, cash and gash don't mix. Oh, Ted Wynn, that's tremendous. That is tremendous. And I love Ted Wynn, man. Big shout out to Ted Wynn, by the way. It's one of them ones. Gman, what was that you just put in the chat? Was that from Ted as well, or is that from you?
No, that's from me. So basically, I'm a great believer of foreign imports has been the reason why we've got this this big money issue in football. And that's foreign imports across all countries, to one another, because players move to other countries that are going to pay more money than in their own leagues, because that's just how it seems to be.
So kind of like anti makalaka chikalaka makalaka lala or
precisely. Once a country or a country starts to build up their football and they got money in it, they start to spend ridiculous money, just like what the Premiership did back in the 90s. Once Man United, Blackburn started to get money, then Arsene Wenger came to Arsenal, then everyone's trying to push up that ladder. Everyone's starting to pay a little bit more. Then you started to see Bolton Wanderers buy Okocha and players like that, give them big contracts because they're playing for international teams.
Well, give them free contracts, but just jack up their wages, isn't it?
Yeah, and Bolton ain't winning anything, yet they're buying big players. And it's become such a common norm for smaller teams to try and chase the pack. When really and truthfully, they're not chasing the pack, they're chasing each other.
Yeah.
And yet they're still paying QPR, for instance, 60 grand for people.
Well, putting their futures at risk. That's the thing. I mean, you look at Pompey were trying to do that, trying to keep up with the big boys, but look at where they are now. Yeah, League One, and they've just had to lay off, I think, another 40 people within the last couple days to stave off administration and liquidation. So
the thing, what I'm saying with these foreign imports, half of them are they're no better than the average English player. They're no better than the Cleverley. They're no better than the Jack Wilshere. Or they're no better than the Henderson. Think about Mikel Arteta. He can't even get into the Spanish squad. No disrespect, but it's a real aspect of football. He's no better than Jack Wilshere. Yeah, he comes to the Premiership. All right, he does his bid. Yeah, but the Premiership isn't paying those sort of fees. If Everton had a wage structure where they didn't have to pay that sort of fee for such a player, they'll buy someone from a lower league team that's of equal ability,
But Everton are doing that. I mean, that's the thing. They're finding diamonds in the rough. All right, yeah, they paid 8, 9, 10 million for Fellaini, but they're not doing that often in terms of buying bigger players. They're finding diamonds in the rough, polishing them, and it's like, wow, they found someone pretty good. Moyes has been brilliant at that, working on a shoestring budget.
My example is basically that I believe some of these players that are over here, these more average players or, just fringe international players, they wouldn't be in this country because, either they wouldn't be looked upon because they're just average and you could tell by how much their contracts are demanding.
Yeah.
Or they just wouldn't come over here because the money's not here.
I mean,
they'll stay at their Espanyol or their Juventus or wherever they are, or their Turkish club, because the money's just not over here. The money's not as desirable as it is, At the moment, it's just like, if I can get to England, Benteke, I want to play for Arsenal. He didn't even know who Aston Villa was. He went to Aston Villa.
Yeah. Well, it's one of them was. Well, look at Robinho going to Manchester City.
Yeah.
Look at that. I mean, it's a case of some people. It's like, you know what? If I make it to England, I've made it, because I'll be getting paid astronomical wages.
Yeah.
No matter who they are, no matter how they perform. That's the scary thing about it. So I don't know, man. I mean, does anyone else want to jump in on this point about Liverpool adopting their new contract strategy? Because I personally think it's a great idea. I'm just hoping everyone else falls in line, but I don't think everyone else will. Certain teams are already running it and running it well, like your Evertons, like your Arsenals are running it well already.